on? I don't see.
I don't see Katie. She might be attending. Yep, there she is.
There she is, okay, because we need to vote her in first thing. Anyway, let me call this meeting to order, Thursday, April the 25th. Welcome, everybody, glad to see you. And our first action needs to be to vote to allow Katie Miller to join us by Zoom. Katie, are you there?
Yep, here.
Can you tell us where you are and your reason for Zooming, and then we'll get a motion to get you in.
I'm in the DRPT office in Richmond. Unfortunately, wasn't able to be out of the office all day today to get out.
Okay, great. I would entertain a motion to allow Katie to join us.
So moved.
Brian made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by Scott. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Should he be
Welcome.
attending?
You are now official.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, let's go around and do our usual introductions. And Mike, it seems like I always look to my left.
And I'm always not smart enough to move. I'm still Mike Murphy from JAUNT.
All right.
I'm Hal Morgan from Albemarle County. I'm on the JAUNT role representative.
Carl Lane, Director of Software Training. Scott Silsdorf, Director of Parking and Transportation for UVA.
Mike Pruitt, Albemarle Supervisor, representing Scottsville District.
Ann Wall, and I serve as Deputy County Executive, Albemarle County.
Diantha McKeel, Albemarle County Board of Supervisors member.
Ryan Pinkston, member of Charlottesville City Council.
Natalie Oshrin, Charlottesville City Council.
Peter Krebs from the Piedmont Environmental Council.
Jen Fleischer, sitting in for Peter Thompson from Charlottesville Area Alliance.
Ben Chambers, Transportation Planning Manager with the City of Charlottesville.
Christine Jacobs, Executive Director, TJPDC.
Lucinda Shannon with the TJPDC.
Gretchen Thomas, TJPDC. And back here.
Jessica Hirschauer, Physical Planner of Albemarle County.
And let's see the folks, Katie, we know you're there. You've already introduced yourself. Is there anybody else up there that needs to be introduced for right now? I think we're good. All right. Our agenda is before us, and I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Brian has made the motion.
Second.
Second by Hal Morgan. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. We have an agenda. We had our draft meeting minutes from March the 28th in our packet. Do I need to give people a couple of minutes to review them, or is everybody good? And if everybody's good, I would entertain a motion.
I would say the only comment that I had is the minutes are not actually in there, so either delete those or we'll go back and put the numbers in. Where it says like this item happened at minute number whatever, we just don't have the numbers in. We'll go replace that.
Because I was going to say I had them in my packet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the minutes in the minutes.
Okay. The minutes for the minutes, got it. So we will add that.
Yeah.
As amended.
Yeah.
All right, is there a motion to approve the minutes from March the 28th as amended?
I move that we approve as amended.
Hal's made the motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a second from, was that Mike?
Yeah.
Okay, from Mike. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I
Any
will
of-
abstain, I was not here.
That's right, abstention. So one abstention, and we have our minutes now approved. Lucinda, do we have anyone from the public who'd like to speak?
Is there anybody from the public in the room that you would like to speak?
Would you like to say anything for 3 minutes?
No.
Welcome.
All right.
We have 3 people in our guest attendees, and if any of them would like to speak, you can raise your hand using the little raise hand at the bottom of the screen. It doesn't look like any of the attendees.
Not seeing anybody raising their hand. All right, we are moving right along. We are, I think, then up to our CAP Transportation Strategic Plan, which is going to be presented by Nick and Lucas, as well as Garland and Ben. Those are the folks that are listed. So Garland, would you like me to turn it over to you to get us started?
Perfect. So, thank you, Diantha.
Sure.
This is a requirement for transit agencies in the Commonwealth. This is our transit strategic plan. We hired Kimberly Horn, let's say, what is it, 15, 16 months ago now?
Yeah, would have been about that long.
And they've been doing a wonderful job. This is kind of bringing awareness as to where we are in the process to you guys. So I'm going to turn it over, and I will say, for my team on the city side, without Ben on our side, a lot of this wouldn't have happened. My schedule is crazy. So Ben has been shoveling a lot of the load, and we're going to bring Nick and Lucas in, and guys, Kim and Lauren team, let's get at it.
All right. So we'll see if we can get that full screen, maybe, is that what you're?
All right, are folks in the room seeing the shared screen?
We are, Nick, and we can hear you, so.
Excellent.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Garland, and good afternoon, RTP members. My name is Nick Adamo. I am the consultant team project manager for the CAT Transit Strategic Plan. I am joined today by my colleague, Lucas Muller, and we are excited to be back with you all today to provide an update on our TSP planning process. We will start with a brief update on the work we have completed to date since we were last with you all in October, and then we'll shift to the bulk of our update today, which will be focused on the components of the draft TSP that will soon be released for public comment and eventual consideration for adoption by City Council. Starting with that project overview and update, we have been very busy since we were last with you. And when we were last with you in October, we presented the kind of early findings and work to date on basically what make up chapters 1 and 2 of the TSP document, our system overview and strategic vision, as well as some highlights and insights from our system performance and operations analysis work, in addition to the findings from our first round of public engagement that we conducted last summer. Since then, we have really focused on the bulk of our Chapter 3, Chapter 4, and Chapter 5 content, which includes planned improvements and modifications to CAT's offerings of transit service, as well as the nitty-gritty details on implementation and financing. So really the bulk of the technical work we've conducted to round out this planning document has been occurring over these last few months. As you may know, or you may recall from last time, each of these individual chapters and their individual focuses all combine into what is our transit strategic plan document, which we are putting the final touches on as we speak. And we're really excited to be soon in the next few weeks releasing our draft full TSP.
And Nick, let me just ask, if folks have questions as we go through, do you want us to save our questions or just somehow or another get your attention and ask questions?
Happy to consider your questions as we go. So feel free to come off mute and raise those, and we'll do our best to answer them as we can.
To speak up if they have a question, and we'll. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. So Lucas here with me will walk us through what you all can expect in the draft transit strategic plan document that will soon be public for review. Lucas.
Thanks, Nick. Good afternoon, everyone. As Nick mentioned, my name is Lucas Muller. I'm Kimberly Horn's DRPT Transit Planning Contract on-call manager. And so we're working, as well as Charlottesville, with a few other agencies in Virginia through this transit strategic plan process, which is really an exciting process and an important effort. As Garland mentioned, it is a legislative mandate through the Virginia legislature that agencies of a certain size are required to complete these strategic.
Lucas, I'm sorry to bother you. We're not hearing you clearly. Maybe it's my antique ears, but is there anything,
Uh,
any way you,
All right, how's that? Is that any better?
that's somewhat better.
Somewhat better. Okay, let me,
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to make sure.
I don't want to be speaking and you can't hear me. How's that? Is that better?
It's a little.
But I think it may be the connection. It sounds more like it's a technical problem than just volume.
Test, any better?
Lucas, we ran into a similar issue yesterday at the MPO meeting. You might want to turn off the video because the connection may be a little
Maybe
weak.
his video is interfering.
Okay, how about that?
Well.
It's a little clearer.
Well, I'm not, good thought, but.
Sorry, how about any better now? Let me, test. I can try to speak louder. Is that?
Okay.
So,
Yeah, just speak louder and we'll let you know if you fade out.
All right, sounds good. And yeah, please jump in if I fade out or you're having trouble.
Yeah, stay close to the mic.
All right. All right. Thank you for bearing with me. Okay, so the transit strategic planning process, this is an important process for the agencies. As Garland mentioned, this is a legislatively mandated effort to make sure that transit agencies of a certain size are outlining the services that will come for the years to come. So it's a 10-year document that outlines the proposed changes as well as associated funding and infrastructure requests for that. But it's important to understand also that these plans are not binding. At this point, they are meant to be flexible. DRPT and others recognize that, especially Charlottesville, as many other agencies in Virginia, are in a state of transition. You all are working through efforts to work through regional collaboration, doing studies and analyses of fare policy as well as vehicles. So there are certainly opportunities for updates to these plans as the years go on, but it's important that we set a strong foundation. So as Nick pointed out, there are the five chapters here. What I'm going to start talking about is chapter 3, the planned improvements and modifications, and then I'll touch on a little bit of the chapter 4 and 5, which helps. So for an overview of the planned improvements, many of you are likely familiar that there have been previous planning efforts that preceded this transit strategic plan. So we started building from the system optimization plan that was completed in 2021, and then used that as well as the regional transit vision plan to look at what was identified with those two plans and see if there were any additional recommendations, and use those as the foundation to build the TSP recommendations. So with all of that, the TSP outlines about 40 service improvements, again, building from the system optimization plan and the constrained and the unconstrained version of the regional transit vision. The recommendations that you'll see in the plan are broken into 3 timeframes. These coincide with the timeframes that are identified in the DRPT guidelines. It's a 10-year plan, so beginning in FY25, that's as soon as July of this calendar year, going through 2034. So a long time from now, and again, ability to have updates to that, but trying to get that long-term outlook as well. We'll also touch on some unconstrained projects and some additional study recommendations that are documented in the TSP, but will be looked at a later point. Let me pause there. Audio okay? Hear me okay?
Well, it's about the same, but I think everybody for the most part is hearing you, yeah, as long as you stay close to the mic.
Okay. Okay. Is that any better? No.
No.
Keep rocking.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
All right, so for the three phases of improvements, the first, the short term, so looking at the 1 to 4 year time frame, this is the ones that can be implemented in the shorter time frame, looking at updates to route alignments and really trying to improve weekday frequencies, ultimately going to the goal of trying to get baseline 30-minute service. So we've identified specific routes for the service increases. The example here is an example of a route alignment update where we have split the Route 2 into 2 patterns and also extended the Route 2 previously has operated on a one-way loop, which can be confusing or cause some delays to travel. So we split that into 2 patterns and extended service as well to the community college. We also want to, during this time period, plan to continue implementation of microcat service, which has relatively recently launched. So continue that and continue monitoring the performance of that. So within those first 4 years, these recommendations do implement most of the recommendations that were included in that system optimization plan, and about a 30% increase in service levels at the end of that year, the year 4. So moving into the medium term, the midterm, some additional service recommendations and looking at weekday frequency improvements as well. This is really where we start getting into implementing some of the regional transit vision plan recommendations. This is also a time period where we're looking at, on some of the routes, reintroducing Sunday service. One of the things we're seeing in Charlottesville and throughout Virginia and around the country is just the demand for travel and demand for transit being not so much during the peak, not as much during the peak periods, but spread throughout the week and the weekend throughout the week, especially after COVID. That is definitely a trend that we are seeing throughout. This is an example of the Route 9 realignment here to add some additional service up to Fashion Square Mall. And by the end of the 8 years, we're looking at about 70% increase in service levels compared to today. And in the long term, currently what's slated is to meet that target of weekday frequencies on all routes being 30 minutes or better, as well as improving weekend service and providing Sunday service on most routes consistent with Saturday service. Again, before this long-term period is reached, there will certainly be reassessments to understand how some of those short-term improvements have been doing and other modifications, but really looking at by the end of this long-term period to implement the constrained scenario for that regional transit vision, and doubling, more than doubling the existing service hours by this point.
And let me just ask a quick question, and just tell me if I'm down in the weeds too much. Maybe this is a good question for Carlin. On the 2 of the improvements that you were talking about the route to PVCC. Does that also include the regional jail?
Yes.
Because we talked about getting a route to that route to stop at ACRJ.
So if you look, can you go back to the 1 to 4 year map? So if you look at the green portion before the yellow,
Okay.
we would pass by the jail there. And if you look at how it's structured, you would have, we're layering 2 routes on top of it there, so you would have very frequent service in the green area. And then it splits off to where the A or the B, I believe you're calling the A goes to PVCC, and the B goes to Fifth Street Station. The A would go by the high school to PVCC, connecting that whole area by directional service. And then you would have the same connection from downtown to Fifth Street Station. So you would have constant connections both directions to the jail.
To the jail, okay. And that would also eventually be a run on Saturday and Sunday?
First it starts on Saturday, and then we hopefully you'll be able to get it to
Because
Sunday.
that's when they have that high, yes, that's right.
Help me out here, I'm not seeing the A proposal
That-
stopping at the jail. It stops at the stop that is near the jail, but still requires people to walk on paved, on sidewalk, bridge.
Right, the orange route would be the one that goes further down past the jail and goes all the way to the Mill Creek Shopping Center and then turns down Mill Creek.
And so what we talked about was you're gonna work with Martin as to where the stop would actually be.
Correct.
Yeah. Right. So and I believe that in the discussion with Martin, that it might not go into the jail, but you would stop.
So it's gonna be on
Avon.
On the
Avon.
road.
It'll be on Avon. It's
Yeah.
more than likely it's probably on that. There's a driveway between, what is that?
The Armory.
The Armory, yeah.
The Armory.
And the jail. So probably on that corner, somewhere in that area between the two, have a stop.
And that would be a great location, so that's not, yeah.
For outbound, it'll be great. For inbound,
Not
it's
so
12 to get across Avon.
No,
But-
there'll be a stop on the other side of the street.
Right.
But they will have to cross Avon.
The corridor
Exactly.
plan though,
Yeah.
hopefully we'll have crossings there. That's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you, I just wanted to make sure.
We're trying to get that in as soon as we can.
Yeah.
It's improvements that are desperately needed. There's actually it adds an additional connection to the community colleges, which is what we desperately need.
Right,
But also it provides that service that you want.
yeah, great, thank you very much, I just wanted to make sure we hadn't forgotten it. I'm sorry, Lucas, we're good. Thank you.
No problem. All right, so for the service recommendations, so one of the requirements of the TSP is to have the study be fiscally constrained so that we can reasonably assume a set of revenue sources. There are some unconstrained service improvements that are included and referenced in the study itself should other funding sources become available. So further improvements to the weekend frequency and additional Sunday service, some additional route alignments and extension, and then microtransit expansion as well. So that one is also tied into what's on the next slide, which is incorporating studies. So there, in addition to the service recommendations, things like the bus should turn here or should go on this street rather than that street, or frequency. It's also important in the TSP to include technical studies. This allows CAT to apply to DRPT and other entities for technical assistance funding to analyze different elements. So some of the things that we've heard about throughout the study and are important to look at, and some of them are already ongoing, but looking at studies related to the customer experience, fare policy, intermodal transfer opportunities, on-time performance, regional coordination, microtransit expansion, looking at how to and where the microcat service could be potentially expanded, and of course working with you all to understand how we can incorporate some of the additional regional transit plan recommendations. Okay, so in terms, that concludes kind of the chapter 3 of the service recommendations. In chapter 4, the implementation plan really focuses on the capital needs that are required to implement those recommendations. So throughout the 10-year timeframe, we're looking at about 74 new buses. So that includes what's referred to as replacement buses. So when a bus it reaches the end of its useful life, it needs to be replaced, but also expansion vehicles to add new service to the fleet. We know you all have been involved in a lot of discussions about the fleet and the fleet makeup and propulsion methods. And so the recommendations that are in the TSP are consistent with that ongoing study. So all replacement and expansion vehicles purchased in 2027 or later will be exclusively zero emission vehicles, consistent with what had been determined previously. So there are a couple projects in 2025 in terms of just working on planning and engineering for CAT's operations facility to help upgrade to be able to accommodate that zero emission fleet, as well as some ongoing shelter.
I'm just looking to see if there are any questions here. Nope. Okay.
Right. And then from a financial perspective of chapter 5, this is really where the revenue and funding sources come in. We certainly try to strive to maximize the use of external funding sources, whether that be for service or capital needs. But certainly some of that does come down to the local funding as well. When we talk about frequency increases, which is clear it's a priority for everyone, that does require significant increases in operations funding, in the number of buses, as well as operators, especially while those operators can be at a shortage recently. So we all would like to strive for increased better frequencies, but it's important to understand the cost that comes along with that. And again, this plan is required to be submitted in order to receive future state funding, which is a large source for CAT. And so, that is important, especially with, and again, many agencies throughout Virginia are trying to work through this of fare free funding that was provided by the state will soon be expiring, as well as the Federal CARES Act subsidy that came from COVID Recovery Act will be tapering down. So more discussions to come on that, certainly, but understanding that some of those larger funding sources are tapering down in the near future. So important to consider that. I believe from that perspective, and turn it back to Nick.
Thank you very much, Lucas. Do any RTP members have questions on these more technical elements of the TSP itself before we move on to next steps and our wrap up?
I don't see anybody that looks like they have a question.
I
so.
do.
Oh, good.
Actually, so it says that even 10 years from now, we'll only have 30-minute, it says or better, but 30-minute frequencies. As you said generally that improving frequency would require increases in operational funding, staff and number of buses. Do we have an idea of, or like, is there a model that's a part of this that gets 15-minute frequencies on 5 and 7?
I'm not sure if it has 15-minute frequencies, but yes, you should be looking at the or better part of that statement a little bit more seriously, because the 30 minutes is the baseline. Mm-hmm. Right now, our baseline is 60 minutes for a lot of our routes. We have one or two that's actually 70. It's kind of weird. The idea is we bring all of those down to 30 minutes, and then the heavy lifters, the 5, the 7, the trolley would be on even more frequent service than that. Okay. All of those are currently on better service than 30 minutes, so we're going to move it towards the better end, not towards 30 minutes.
And we maybe talk about incremental adjustments, so you could go about where we at. 30-minute service kind of baseline, then as we add service and make it 20-minute, and then as we grow our system, make it 15-minute. So the cost, and as we acquire more vehicles, we gradually.
Okay, so the or better there is doing some heavy lifting.
Yes, and you will see, not just within the constrained elements of this plan, but when you look at the individual route recommendations, there's also going to be unconstrained recommendations of, we would love to have this if you would give us more money. And you'll see on those heavy hitter routes that we're saying, we'd love to take this down to 15 or 10-minute service eventually. Those are where we have, yeah.
I would love to take this service.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then it's just soon.
Yeah.
That's the time is soon, which is
Right.
ideal. Okay, thank you.
Great questions, thanks. All right, well, that represented the bulk of our content for you today, and we'll leave you with what you can expect over the next few weeks. So we're currently in April, at the end of April, of course, briefing you all. We also plan to convene our TSP stakeholder group meeting. Many of you are also on that, but it also includes some additional community members, community groups, institutional members to really give them the same update. And we are tracking to publish a full draft of the TSP in early May, and we will also have a period of public review and public comments, so people can dive in, read the details, tell us what they like, tell us what they think we could do better or potentially tweak before we finalize the document towards the end of May. As CAT's governing body, essentially, Charlottesville City Council must review and must adopt and endorse the finalized transit strategic plan. We anticipate putting the final plan up for their consideration at the June 3rd council meeting, and look forward to that. And that's council adopted and approved TSP is due to DRPT to satisfy that legislative mandate by June 30th.
Any questions?
So I would just say it's been a labor of love to get it to where we are right now. Bringing it to I tell council quite often that in STA's eyes, they're our board. So we bring it to the board in the first meeting in June. If there's discussions and we have room to adopt at the second meeting, which will still allow us an opportunity to meet the mandate of being compliant by June 30th, getting it to BDRPT. Because we're asking for, there's really no financial implications on this. There's no binding agreements that are being done. But this, it's just acknowledging that CAT had to go through this process. And the study is kind of charting our path forward. You're acknowledging that it's putting us on a pathway to make these improvements. And at a certain point in time, we'll be kind of looking at scoreboard, which part of the plan were we able to implement track record. We will have opportunities to make adjustments. We do that annually letter to BDRPT, but the goal is to try and get as much of this implemented as we possibly can.
And it would seem like to me, Carl, that as our work progresses with an authority, this is helpful to inform that work.
It really is, but also I would say if we ever get to the authority board, there will be a whole lot more discussions about trade-offs between adding service versus a discussion we had today. Where do we fill in gaps with microtransit? Are there other mobility options that we can add? So spinning up an authority would add another layer of real detailed conversations about the improvements that are before us.
Well, and I think our microtransit pilot will inform us as well.
It's already informed us. It's doing
yes.
really well.
So we'll have that too, so, yeah.
And the goal is to keep that momentum going. That's it.
I have a question about the public comment period. Nick, how long is that open for, and is that all solicited online?
That is a great question and a great segue into my next
Oh,
slide.
just kidding.
Yes, we are planning for a 4-week public comment period. And yes, we are anticipating that it will be a virtual public comment period. We also plan to offer 2 virtual public meetings for members of the public, folks in the community, to basically hear what you're hearing from us today, to really break it down and let them know what these pieces of the TSP mean, so they can be better equipped to review it and provide us the feedback we need to finalize everything.
I have a question about that. A lot of the public comments that we get in council seem to come from people who are passionate about certain elements of the bus system but don't actually ride the bus. So to get comments from people who use this system daily, is there going to be like a QR code sticker that goes on bus stops or some on the bus itself so that people have easy access to it?
Yes. Go ahead, Garland. I'm sorry.
I was saying, yes, I know you were about to say yes, but I wanted to say absolutely. We're going to put it on your buses, not necessarily on the bus stops itself.
Yeah, we don't have great places to hang
Yeah,
those.
it's a little harder for us to do that, especially at the time frame we have. So it's actually easier for us to put, we have inside panels that we're going to use to advertise.
Will the bus drivers be saying something about it to folks?
They'll probably say more than we want them to.
Yeah.
But yes, there will probably have conversations about taking opportunity to.
Okay, great. And then I had a separate question, but I don't know when the best time to ask it, so I'll just jump in now. I know there's something about the ridership count that we have matters for the funding we get from the state. When does that matter? Like, when do they take that into account? When do we need to be?
Annually, so they have a formula for determining what state operating funds they give to CAT every year. That operating assistance is based on the size of the system, which is sort of calculated based on what their revenues are for the system. So if you wanted to give CAT more money, the state would say, oh, that's great. You should get more money from the state as well to double down on that investment. It also looks at ridership and says, well, how much of a good return are we getting for this investment? And so those are the 2 major things that are part of their formula. There's a couple other little tweaks of like service hours and things that make some adjustments, but those really set the stage for how much money CAT gets from the state.
And when is that? Like, is it?
It's February when they put in for that and they start doing the assessments. We get that goes before CTB in April, they approve it in June, and then that becomes the budget for the next fiscal year.
So in theory, we would tell people, write as much as you can before next February to juice our numbers for this year. And then keep doing it.
I believe it's the previous fiscal year, yeah, and it's a 3-year average actually, so they don't want us to run up the numbers. There is a 3-year average built into it. I don't want to dissuade us from running up the numbers, but that's kind of how it, yeah. We need a sustained effort of running up the numbers if we're going to do it that way, and that is something we're aiming for.
But what I will say is there are other systems, and we've had the conversation before, that are ahead of us, meaning they've been after getting ridership up, and like a GRTC, we're all in the same pot of money, by the way. Whether it's a small system or it's really competitive. The larger systems are gobbling up a lot more of the money because they're expanding their service faster than the smaller systems can. We are behind. So if we get our frequency up, then we can probably try to catch up, and at least keep our portion of the money out of the pot. The goal would be to get a larger portion of the pot, but for that, we have to increase our ridership and frequency does that.
So to just muddy the waters, as I'm good at doing, right? Getting our ridership up, one way we could do that if we can figure out how to get the University of Virginia transit system somewhere or another. And I understand that's why I'm saying muddy waters, but that is another pool of ridership.
So, interesting that you say. So, Scott and I actually had a conversation first starting.
There you go, I like that, that sounds good.
When Rebecca was here, we need to kind of flesh this out. There is a way that I've seen, I remember the University of Kentucky, I think it was, that they're sharing with the local system. They do it's called a paper where they agree to work with the local system for ridership purposes. So they're capturing that ridership. We can look at something.
We need to figure that out, because that would be very helpful. I understand the challenges, right, around the
There are
charges,
challenges.
but I understand too that other communities have figured it out, maybe in other states, but I mean, we've got to figure this out. Because it would really.
But I will say that to the university's credit, they're open to having these conversations.
Yes, and that's great. More lunches would be good.
But we don't want to put them in a situation where they now get to the federal pie and they're subject to the same rules and regulations that we are, which will put them in a bind.
Yes,
Yes.
got it. Any other comments or questions? Yeah, this sounds good. I'm liking it, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. Be on the lookout for that draft plan online. And as I mentioned, we'll be holding our virtual public meetings to help the public understand the nature of the plan and ways they can provide their feedback. We are planning that, print promotion campaign with posters on buses, digital promotions as well. We really want to let people know that this is out there and that we're taking their comments. And we encourage all of you in your official capacities to help us spread the word so we can make the most of this public comment period.
Nick, thank you all very much for the presentation. And I think, Lucinda, do you have this presentation that you can send to us? Or
Yeah, Nick, if you send it to me, I'll send it around
because
to
the board members might like to have a presentation.
Sure thing.
Just before you sign off, just to make sure there are no follow-up questions or anything that anybody wants to ask? No? All right, well, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right. And I guess, Garland, you don't need any other takeaways or any other discussions about this, or you're good? I'm used to
Yeah, I think we're
asking
good.
to make sure everybody has everything.
Oh, we're going to give you plenty of opportunities to give us feedback, but we don't need any more than that, I think.
Okay, all right, great. Then we are on to our transit provider updates. And I was actually in a meeting yesterday afternoon with William from Albemarle County Public Schools, and he had a conflict today, so he's not going to be with us. He did say that the only update he had was that he was hoping to get a grant and it slipped through his fingers and they didn't get it. So anyway, that happens. And so we'll hear, I'm sure, more about that in the future. So with that, Scott, would you like to take the UTS?
Yes, so as Garland said, we had lunch and the first of open many. We've been here 7 months now, and I apologize for taking a while to get going, but we're gonna keep the dialogue going. There's a lot of nexus between UVA, UTS, and CAT, and so appreciate the time. And speaking of federal obligations, I can report that we just a little under an hour ago submitted a request through the grants.gov app for 20 battery electric buses for UTS. So it's our first time dipping our toe in the water of federal granting money. So we'll see. The announcement will be later this summer. It's a competitive grant. It's not operating, it's capital. It was fun navigating the university's grant process, which was new to my department and me individually and all of my staff. And so we'll see. And I apologize for missing the tour of CAT with the Gillig bus that came. The next day I went to UTS. I was out that week, which was right after our last meeting. But anyway, that we made the application, so stay tuned.
What program is it through?
That's my question.
I was gonna say, what program is it through?
It's through the low, no low.
Yeah,
The deadline is today.
And does that change anything for how UTS operates currently?
It may.
Okay.
And we have decided to see what comes if we are awarded. So
Okay.
I'll leave it at that for now.
So fingers and toes crossed. And this summer you'll hear, so.
I believe by August. That's the time frame usually. September.
Into September.
Who's that in competition with? Is it federal grants like nationwide, or does it grant money to states to then?
Everybody.
It's all transit agencies.
Everybody, yes. But, I mean, it's competitive. It's competitive, but the program is 10 times bigger this year and last year than it's ever been.
Oh, that's good.
It's 1.5 billion actually, 1.5 billion FY '24 funding to support state and local efforts to buy or modernize buses, improve facilities and support workforce development.
They've never gone
Not you, yeah, like this.
What is our funding ask is 31.4 million altogether, but the 20% contribution from the university from our department, so. Yes.
That's funny. Exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting, like I said, we pulled the trigger, so there we go. Same shock looks.
Well, so your request is how many?
20.
20.
Yes.
So if they say no, can you say, can we have 10?
I don't
Well,
think
it
so.
wouldn't really work that way,
Be the other
but there's a scalable element in there. I think our minimum that we said that would work for us would be 6.
Okay.
So
there is a range.
And kind of following up on, I think I said this maybe 2 updates ago, when we canceled the Proterra order, we didn't cancel the charging infrastructure. So that infrastructure has been installed, which is part of our desire to get a fleet here ASAP. We've got now 6 wonderful electric vehicles that we're using in our on-demand and in our parking enforcement and in our supervisory. We've got, I think, 4 or 5 Chevy Bolts and a Subaru Solterra. It's for our support vehicles that we've never had before. So but we want electric buses.
So your charging stations are where right now?
Right behind our facility.
Same
They're not
place. Okay.
publicly available.
Yeah.
They're intended to be
Off the line.
institutional use.
Yeah, they're off.
Does the grant opportunity also include more chargers? Because
Yes, yeah, we need more chargers
Yeah.
than what we have in order to have 20 buses. And I think we sort of left it in there scalable to kind of see what happens.
Cool.
Yeah, but no guarantees. Our grants office was pretty clear with us. They're like, wait, who are you? Wait, who's, in fact, there were policies that I was reading just this morning, making sure that we weren't violating anything. But yeah, it's very, research university, we're very structured to not seeking capital equipment for buses. So it was eye-opening experience the last 2 months.
He needs to take you out for a happy hour, not
Yes,
just
he
a
does. But on the other updates are, which was just new for me, just for y'all to know, we did do our annual driver meeting this past weekend, which was exciting for me to see and to talk to our drivers. We always try to do it on a Saturday before we start service and before our students go. I think we've got 5 students that are senior 4th years that are graduating this year. So we had that recently, that was exciting, and we're also trying to do some more cross-pollination within the department. So we had Mike Duffy from our facilities management team who talked about basically safe driving. It was kind of interesting to have another perspective at our sort of retreat, if you will. And then the last piece that I'll say is we just also are kicking off through the Who's Driving was last year for UTS operators. This year it's Who's On Demand, which I think I briefly mentioned last year or last month. Our on-demand service, we are fully pulling in-house with UTS drivers. And so we're starting that recruitment process through the Pipelines and Pathways collaboration with the university. So I think we've had a few applicants, but the actual start date for the program is within a couple of weeks that we can get rolling. I think the end of May for the training.
And when is, just remind me, when is graduation?
May 17th and 18th.
So mid-May, so.
And I will not be working because my daughter is graduating.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
don't ask me anything about operations. The staff says that we've got it. They did it last year and they
they're
got it.
well achieved at this point.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions?
Good luck.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
Great.
you. Yes, it's
That's
exciting.
awesome.
It is very.
Kendall, if you see Kendall, give him a big hug. He's worked really hard and was a little frazzled especially the last few days.
Those grants can do it to you.
Yeah. All right, well, with that, Garland Cat is up next with the school, with the city and the county.
So
The
I'm
school system.
gonna piggyback off what Scott said. We are taking the same opportunity, but we have to go a little slower because Unlike university, which has the flexibility, there is a requirement that we have our plan before we're supposed to be applying. So our plan is in transition. We're gonna take the opportunity. We've been working on our application also. We'll be pushing it out the door at 6 o'clock today. So I'll leave everyone there to add between 2 and 4 more battery electric vehicles. And we have a preliminary number based on the work that Kimberly Horn has done for infrastructure. We'll be applying for those. We'll keep our fingers crossed because that's not normally the process for a federally funded transit agency. We have to have our plan complete to usually apply. So we're gonna take a shot in the dark and see what happens. If that is successful, then it speeds up our timetable to make our pilot bigger. If it's not, then we would basically wait till we finish and we will reapply next year in the same cycle. It takes 2 years for us to get the vehicle anyway, so we have time. Our senior project manager is going to be helping us with labor of love moving this process along. His name is Bruce White. He starts on June the 3rd. He's coming in from the great state of Washington. He is a former Marine JAG officer. He's an attorney. He used to work for Toll Brothers, big housing firm, so he has the real estate arm part that we need. We'll just get him acclimated to the FTA regulations. I think he'll be perfect to help us move these major capital projects along. So been looking forward to someone who has the skill set. He fits the bill. He'll be here June 3rd. And additionally, we have our operations, assistant director for operations, Dwayne's old position. There's Dwayne Patterson from New Jersey Transit. Has also given us a date of June 3rd, or before. So just keep our fingers crossed. Both of them in the house, and we're going to get rock and rolling, which is, it'll be the first time CAT has had a full staff in over 2
Don't say it out loud. Don't say it out loud, knock.
Tell us a little bit about New Jersey Transit. So is that sort of similar?
No, much bigger system.
Okay.
They cover the whole state, yeah.
So he was, they have 6, I believe he said 6 or 8 operational managers. He was one of them. So he was looking to transition from New Jersey, and we just happened to be a place where his family, his wife has family here in Virginia. So they were looking to move this way. And we lucked up and got him before another transit agency did.
We're a lot nicer than New Jersey. Don't put that in minutes.
But I would say that he brings a wealth of transit experience. He also has 20 plus years of working with a union, which is also something that we're looking for as we do the transition. On the school side, and I will go school and then back to transit. Budget process is over. We're adding 2 additional drivers for the next fiscal year, based on what was approved in the budget. Council approved, I can't remember, 6 or 8 additional transit operators. And we're working through that process. Our marketing coordinator, Alex, and the team, we've been meeting and working up a pretty aggressive marketing plan to attract more drivers. You will probably be seeing that hit probably the 1st or 2nd week of May. So we're aggressively trying to start recruiting, so we can be in position to have at least, especially the pupil drivers, and then a long-term sustained effort to get more transit drivers. So that's our goal to be seeing. We're going to be all over the airways on our alternative fuel campaign and our aggressive marketing campaign to attract more drivers. You'll be seeing a lot of CAT CAT overload, but that's okay. We got to do that to attract people.
Right. I will say, I saw a great commercial ad on TV about your fuel the other day. It was outstanding. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but it was really.
Yeah, so it's running on
I was
29
impressed.
and 19. It's It's in pretty heavy rotation right now. We, I think it's like 60 ads per month. So it's pretty high for us, what we're looking for.
Yeah, but it was really a good ad. I know who produced it for you, but
Oh,
it was great.
Kyle?
last name. What's Kyle's last name?
Kyle Irving.
Kyle Irving.
He's
with, I should know.
He's our communications staff
Yeah, it
in
was
City Hall.
really good.
Kyle has done all of our commercials. So remember the commercials we did doing COVID?
Yeah,
Same.
Same person.
He's got a very good eye for that.
Yeah, it was really
He does a wonderful job.
any questions for Harlan? Sounds like you have your plate full.
We got our plate full.
All right, Mike, we're on to John.
On to John.
We're gonna John over to John.
I'll start by saying that unlike my distinguished colleagues here, I will keep all gun references out of my update here, and since we have a community problem. But, let's see, last meeting of the JAUNT board and shareholders, 2 separate meetings, we have approved the return of excess capital from this past year to the localities. That'll happen right after July 1. At our meeting in a couple of weeks, we will be establishing a nominating committee for new officers and for this group. And so we may see some change in names and or faces, and I just need to maybe talk with you, Diane, about like what's the runway for this group, right? As far as what we're looking for with folks. Sure. And we are right now looking at some stop-by-stop data on our fixed route part of the system, which is our connect routes, and definitely see some opportunities for refinement there that should happen fairly quickly. And on electrification, I expect at our meeting in 2 weeks, I'm going to have proposal or an evolution from the consultant of what does the horizon look like for us if we were to be targeting 50%, 75%, and 100% electrification of the fleet. And then finally with that, I think we have a plan for the installation of the infrastructure, should we go that direction, that really works for us based on the physical plant at JAUNT. And it's a matter of syncing it up with a capital project we have where we're already tearing up the parking lot next year, and let's not do that twice. That's really what's happening at JAUNT. I'll say on a personal note, for the first time in 36 years, I put on a college t-shirt that wasn't for University of Virginia because my daughter has decided to go to William and Mary.
Oh, congratulations, that's cool. So she'll be close.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I'm gonna put you on the spot because I know I can. Would you just give this group just a really quick 101 pointers on your 2 boards? You all have a very different structure now, Mike, and I'm not sure that everybody really has a sense.
Yeah.
We have some new members here, and I just a quick overview.
Yeah, so JAUNT has this unusual construct. It's a public service corporation, which is a thing that existed in Virginia up until 1984, and then it stopped existing. So the basics are that Charlottesville and Albemarle constitute both for the shareholders group and the board of directors basically double the voting membership of the rural localities. Each of the localities, as they came into the system over time, made varying contributions to become a part of JAUNT, and that is represented in the structure of the shareholders. The shareholders really only need to meet a couple times a year. They have particular powers that the board does not. So for example, I know what excess capital we had after the audit from FY '23 and recommended a strategy to the board and Hal and his, compatriots there about how we should send that money back to the locality. So in this case, I said, we would like to hold back a certain portion of that for our capital needs for this parking lot project and return all the rest of it to the localities, which is what they endorsed. But the actual movement of the money can only happen after the shareholders say so, right? While the localities, I'll say, recommend all of the board appointments, only the shareholders can actually make that happen. And so I remember that at the point where we add a board member, we have to tell them, oh, shareholders mean you're actually a non-voting member of the board. So there are some little idiosyncrasies like that. They have different powers within the bylaws. And it has presented questions about, what is JAUNT exactly? I think that when JAUNT experienced some difficulty, several years back, that was the process that really made it super clear that yes, JAUNT is, by virtue of this type of arrangement, local government in a way, right? And fits some of those constraints, which is how we got into that discussion about are you or are you not eligible to discuss unionization? And importantly for that time period, it's what made JAUNT need to operate within FOIA.
See, I knew he could do a quick one-on-one. It was good, but it is a very different structure.
Yes.
And most people, I'm not sure I've even, after all these years, wrapped my head around it, but it is different.
I'll let you know when I do.
And I do know at times it does slow you all down, because you have two groups you have to, by the time you get your second board, I'm calling the second board together, and it's interesting. I did not know that they'd done away with it. That model is no longer, didn't you say?
That's right.
Yeah, that's
There are
interesting.
there's no opportunity to have new public service corporations for 40 years now.
Virginia is always an interesting state. Any questions about Mike's 101? Thank you very much, Mike. I really appreciate you doing that for us. All right, with that, Katie, DRPT.
Yeah, so the main update is that the 6-year improvement program has been released to the CTD and was presented in front of the CTD and is now available for public comment. That's all of our recommended funding scenarios for fiscal year 25 grants, operating and capital projects. And then on May 8th is the Culpeper District public hearing that I think is being held at the TJPDC office. So if you all want to participate in that, provide any feedback on SIP, the draft SIP, and then also on the 16th, RPT will be hosting an event in the office here in Richmond that also everyone is welcome to attend.
Okay. Any questions for Kate? All right, thank you very much, dear. Appreciate it. And staff updates. I'm going to then turn to Ann and Ben, and you guys are going to give us an update on the Regional Transit Authority because you all have been meeting. So I'll turn the floor over to Ben.
You want to start us out?
I'll start off and then Ben and Christine can just chime in
Sure.
when I get off track.
Okay.
I think when we spoke last time, I mentioned that we were doing work related to the formation of an RTA in sort of 3 different buckets. One is around structure. So we've spent some time sort of crafting a set of bylaws. I think we're towards the end of that. We have we will very soon have a very solid draft about what those bylaws will look like, and I think we are on schedule to bring that back to this board on the June 27th meeting, okay, which is the next meeting.
Right.
We've had conversations about what the budget looks like and some high-level conversations about staff. The next phase, I think that we're really going into is a phase of outreach, having conversations with partners. We had a great meeting with UTS and the university, a really substantive conversation, lots of give and take. And we'll look forward to having continued discussions with the university and UTS about what UTS and an RTA, there's a lot of alphabet, yeah, a lot of that in there, about what that looks like. We're also in May, thanks to Lucinda, we'll have outreach to the counties. We'll go to all 4 of the counties, have conversations with the counties about, I would say what opportunities exist for an RTA to understand their sort of transit needs, and where could the RTA sort of assist with that? And all those, I think, are scheduled in May. I think, are they in a week? Are they in 1 week or 2 weeks?
We're awfully close.
Yeah.
That's great, the road to get there, so we went into the counties to do that. And we have spent some time sort of reviewing some of the prior conversations that have existed because we didn't want to have the same conversation again.
Right.
Okay, so,
So, hold on, Ann, so those counties are not all the Region 10 counties, which counties are they?
The 4 surrounding rural outside of Charlottesville, Albemarle.
Okay, thank you.
Because Charlottesville, Albemarle in the legislation need to be the original members and then can bring on additional. So we want to talk to the surrounding 4. Flavanna, Greene, Louisa, Nelson.
Okay, yeah, so it is the whole region.
Yeah.
okay. And then the area that we're moving to now is a discussion about what work plan would look like for a year or so out. What would be the items that the RTA would need to think about doing? How would we schedule those items in? But the idea would be to sort of be in a position to, if the decision was made to go forward, when the decision is made to go forward with activating the RTA, certainly on the city-county portion of it, what are those next steps?
Yeah, and I'll just point out that all of the steps that we've been taking line up pretty much cleanly with what the recommendations were out of the Regional Transit Governance Study. They recommended we set up an authority. We're working through the nuts and bolts of that. They recommended that we do outreach to UVA and get them engaged with the decision makers at UVA and at the city and the county, and we're doing that. They said we should continue talking to the rural agencies and figuring out if they want to come along on the ride with us, and if they don't, what sort of considerations would they make for joining us in the future if we have the funding source. And then lastly, it says that we need to be looking at regional transit needs and studying that. That's going to be baked into part of what we're looking at for the work plan, is what sort of stuff do we need to be doing, and that would be one thing that we would add to that list. So we are making progress on the things that we said that we should be doing, and it's very exciting.
It is exciting.
Yeah.
So you all, go ahead. I'm sorry, one other thing I'll say is the legislation that was originally passed related to the RTA is pretty prescriptive of what the governance structure ought to look like. It says the city county kicks it off, it identifies who board members are and who voting board members are, who non-voting members would be. There's not, in the early stages, not a lot of wiggle room about what that governance structure might be.
But that's sort of been done, at least to get us started.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Made it easy for us to pull together bylaws without having to think through too many of those choices. They were already sort of made for us, so.
And I guess part of your work plan or list of next steps will involve the asks we need to make to the General Assembly.
Yes.
Right.
Because that's gonna be coming up on the specs.
Right.
Yeah. Because they're gonna wanna know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this General Assembly might not be the opportunity, it might be the next one, but we need to have that discussion and talk through what we would ask this time versus what the benefit is for waiting till next time.
Okay, that's great.
I would say the other thing I would add is we've had the initial conversation with the team over at UVA, and our local surrounding rural jurisdictions, but we are also going to be reaching out to CAT and JAUNT as well. So that's on our list. We just haven't scheduled it yet, which is why we haven't. Yeah, we had ours with him.
Oh.
We'll do another one. We talked about staying
have
up to date every
ongoing,
couple,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
We'll be,
So at the next meeting, you all will have a big hunk of our agenda, I would think. You'll be presenting to us in June, because the May meeting has been canceled because of a conference, I think.
Virginia Transit Association
Yeah,
conference.
So the next meeting will be June the 27th, and you will be on our agenda for that, is what I'm hearing.
I think certainly we'll have, the bylaws, we'll also have some report outs from these conversations with the county partners. We might not have been to the other local partners by then. We can sort of talk a little bit about, high level about what the work plan might look like.
That's exciting.
And the other thing I think that you all would ask about, and maybe we can talk about it in June, is what are the next steps, the future steps that we would need to think about, and what does the schedule look like for those next steps?
Great.
And then the only other thing tentative for June is JAUNT coming and do some presentations. I know that your studies are June or July, so we have flexibility around that, and we'll touch base with you to confirm.
Yeah. So, excellent. Does anybody have any questions about the authority update? I think it's exciting. I'm looking forward to this. So with that, then, I know you guys hate to get out early. But hearing no objections, I will adjourn us to June the 27th at 4 o'clock, same place. And have a lovely month,
Spring.
couple of months. All right? Thank you. Thank you,
All the
Katie.
rest is spring.
Bye.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, Brian.